Good evening. My name is Evan Dunn, and I am going to be talking to you about ATP pathways. Good evening. So, in this detailed diagram, we're discussing the ATP pathways in collaboration with palmitate. So, we see the excess dietary fat within SAFA and PUFA, the adequate dietary fat with balanced, how catabolic pathways are incorporated, how anabolic pathways are incorporated, and the metabolic dysfunctions that occur within ATP production. So first, we're going to talk about glycolysis and the key steps. Glycolysis is the main pathway that can generate ATP in absence of oxygen or in cell lacking mitochondria such as red blood cells. Pyruvate is typically generated through glycolysis, and there are chemical reactions through glycolysis where energy can be released during the breakdown of glycolysis, storing and capturing ATP. There's also a compound utilized in glycolysis called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It's converted into NADH. Then now we are going to be discussing the Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle is playing a significant role in the production of ATP. There are 8 different enzymes that are catalyzed, which are citrate synthenase, aconitase, isotrate dehydrogenase, a ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, succinyl acetosynthase, and more. And they yield 2 ATP. And I don't know if I indicated in the slide previously, but glycolysis produces 2 ATP. It yields 2 ATP and then produces 4 ATP with 2 NADH. So the next is electron transport chain. It can also be called oxidative phosphorylation. I also have an illustration behind me indicating the way that electron transport chain is utilized. It's a chain of proteins that occur and can release energy. It also occurs in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, which you can see located behind me. There are electron transport chain. There's an order for electron transport chain in order for it to produce ATP, which is complex 1, complex 2, coenzyme Q, complex 3, cytochrome C, and complex 4. It's a series of steps by which electrons follow oxygen permits gradual lowering the energy of electrons. So you can use oxidative phosphorylation and electron transport chain in the same way because they mean pretty much the same thing. Electron transport chain also yields 30 to 32 ATP. So the next one is beta oxidation. Beta oxidation requires certain enzymes to carry out metabolism of fatty acids. It's also the pathway for catabolism of fatty acids, referring to beta oxidation pathway, which because of the oxidation that occurs in beta carbon. There is also a ratio of 16 of palmitate for saturated fatty acids. Beta oxidation typically yields 4 ATP for this one. Okay, so now we are talking about the interactions between each pathway across exercise, intensity, and duration. Glycolysis and beta oxidation both work in similar ways in what it produces. Glucose has a easier way to break down. It's quick to access energy wise, and it can occur in short durations. It's quicker for exercise, and they all pretty much meld cohesively together. There are occurrences where they may drift apart, but they always find a way to come back together and assist each other in breaking down what is needed and being able to enhance the energy that is required for exercise. Now we are discussing the factors that limit ATP production in each pathway. Glycolysis has a lack of mitochondria. There is an inability to sustain or generate energy. There also is the limitation of not being able to obtain the necessary nutrients. So nutrients is very important, because without the necessary nutrients, you cannot get the energy that is needed to be generated and sustained when performing these exercises. That it's really important. You cannot have energy without nutrients. If you don't have one or the other, you're not able to produce ATP in the way that it should be produced. Poor hydration is also significant in the limitations of ATP production in all of the pathways, just because without the necessary hydration, it all melts together. So if you don't have the necessary nutrients, you cannot sustain or generate energy. If you do not have hydration, you do not have the energy to sustain yourself when exercising or in the exercising environment. And also, just nutrients and hydration go together in order to sustain energy and generate energy. Without the necessary hydration that is important, without the necessary nutrition that is important, you will not be able to have the energy that is needed to produce the ATP that is necessary for exercise. So, in conclusion, these pathways are needed for the body to function correctly. A lot of times we find that when our body isn't functioning correctly, everything is off scale. So when one thing is not going correctly within our body, everything doesn't align in the way it's supposed to. And that also speaks for ATP pathways and how it's produced and the energy that is needed in order for there to be production. Necessary production and good production that is needed for exercise within the body. With these pathways and processes, we can ensure that there will be less limitations when participating in physical activity. So giving yourself the nutrients that is needed, giving yourself the necessary hydration that is needed, giving yourself the necessary exercise that is needed in order to obtain and sustain and generate energy is important, because there is fatigue that can be built when there is a lack of energy. And so being able to implement things within your life that will promote the ATP production, promote energy, promote physical activity, everything working together in order for you to be healthy and exercise and have energy and have ATP produced. And also, ATP is really important for physical activity. So being able to give yourself the necessary nutrients and energy and hydration that it needs in order to function is what is important. Those are my references. They were cited within my slides. I hope I was able to educate you a little bit more on ATP, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.